Hi, so today we're working on the theory workbook level 1A, and we're doing the next few pages, which is 21 through 24. So we're going to start with 21. This part is a continuation of 20. 20 you were doing seconds and thirds. Now you're just identifying fourths and fifths. So it's not too hard. Just remember, if you're doing a fourth, you should have one line note and one space note. Right? So you can kind of see the two notes in between that you'd be skipping. If you're looking at a fifth, it should be line, line, or it should be space, space, right? They should be the same kind of note. All right, so as we're looking, right, they just kind of point that out to you, fourth. Line to space or space to line, right? Line to line, space to space for fifths. Okay, so the bottom of the page, those are the examples you're doing. They did the first two, fourth, fifth. So again, you're just counting lines and spaces. That's a line 1, space is 2, line is 3, space is 4, that's a line, it's a fifth, right? And again, check. What you should be seeing is one line note and another line note, or a space and a space, right? Same idea here. You have 1, that's a line, 2 is a space, 3, 4, 5, also a fifth. Right, and we'll do one more because the next one I can see, right? You can see it's a space and a line. Should be a fourth. Check it, count 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, fourth. Right. And that should be pretty easy. The rest of the page is the same things, fourths and fifths. All right, next page, this is 22. This part's a little harder. So this is all about counting. We've been doing 4/4 time, 3/4 time, 2/4 time, but they're also adding in those eighth notes that we've been looking at. Right, so a lot of counting with eighth notes. So their first example is 2/4 times. You've got 2 beats, and then the eighth notes fit in there. So just like we were doing, it's 1, 2, 1, and 2, and they leave out ands. You can always put in ands. I mean, they exist. Those are just the halfway points between beats. They just leave them out when there's not actually a note on that and beat. So they got 1, 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and right. So every time you've got an eighth note, it's just a half a beat. It's got to be the first half of the first beat or the second half of the first beat, right? First half of the second beat, second half of the second beat. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You can also, when you're playing these, think this is long, long, short, short, long, long, short, 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 right? You can see all those short notes in there. Okay, so when you're writing, the assignment will have you write counting numbers. It's easiest to just count it this way with the numbers and the little plus sign for and. These other examples, this is what you would actually say, 1 and 2. And then this is just another method of counting. Ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. It's just another common way to count. But again, when you're writing them, just use that 1 and 2 and, that method that's at the top. Okay, so the next example is in 3/4, same idea. 3 big beats. Sometimes you have eighth notes, so it's 1 and 2 and 3 and again that and is missing, but it's just remember it is there. Okay, and then the last example line is in 4/4 time. Same idea. You've got 4 beats, little eighth notes in there. So like this one, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is short, short, long, short, short, long, long, short, 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 long, right? And you can count it out with the 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the only thing you have to do on this page is at the very bottom. So they've got 2/4 time. You're just filling it in. Basically, every note needs to be labeled. And you just need to have, like for 2/4 time, the 1 and the 2 in there. Right, so just don't skip anything. If you need ands, just stick them in there, 1, 2, and, right? And if you want to put an and here, that's totally fine. Even here, it doesn't matter to me, but just make sure your numbers are there and label every single note that you see. So this is 1 and 2 and, right? Even with a tie, same thing. This is 1, this is 2, right? So that should end up working out. The next page, 23, it's the same kinds of things, but counting in 3/4 time, 4/4 time, and back to 2/4. So the same idea. Let's do the next measure of the 3/4 time. I got 1, 2, and 3, right? That's a quarter rest. Count it the same way as a note. This is 1 and 2, and again, you can put an and if you want. 3. It's up to you with the ands. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Just keep working through those. Then the second half of this page, this is still on page 23. It says, complete the following measures with any combination of quarter notes, half notes, dotted half notes, or whole notes. You may also use rests, right? Same idea. Be sure to observe the time signature. Try to vary your answers right in the counts for your completed examples. So basically, all these measures should be missing something. You just need to add it back in. So like 2/4 time, you should have 2 beats. There's only one. So you have choices. You can do a quarter note. You could do a quarter rest. You could do some eighth notes. Yeah, anything that adds up to the correct number of beats. So like this one, you have 2 eighth note, that's 1 beat, right? So you need 1 more beat, you could put a rest. So whatever makes sense to you. So you're finishing that line should all have 2 beats in every measure. They're all missing stuff. The next line is 3/4, same idea, you're missing 2 beats. So be creative. You can do, let's say, a quarter note and 2 eighth notes, right? There's no right or wrong answer as long as you add up to the right number of beats. Okay, so that's 3/4 time. As you go, every measure is missing something again. The next line is 4/4, and also the last line is 4/4. Same idea. So just adding notes. And then once you're done, just go back and add the counting numbers. 1, 2, 1, and 2. Whatever examples that you've added in there, right? 1, 2, this is 3, and right. So go back and count them. All right, and then last page is 24. And this uses a dotted quarter note. We started talking about this last week. So dotted quarter note is a quarter note plus an eighth note, 1.5 counts. And it's a little strange. Again, you can think 1.5 seconds. So it's longer than 1 second, but shorter than 2 seconds. So when you're counting them in 2/4, you count 1 and 2 and, right? That little eighth note lands on the and, because that dot took part of that second beat, right? That's that little dot in there. So all these examples are like that. Again, a dotted quarter note's the whole first beat, part of the second beat, and then the eighth note lands on the and. Right, same thing when you hit, this is 4/4 time. The dotted quarter note starts on the third beat, right? The whole third beat, part of the fourth beat, then this note lands on that and. Right, so these eighth notes should be landing on ands when you got that little flag. All right, so write in the counts, right? So let's write them in. So 3/4 time, just like we were saying, first beat, whole thing, part of the second beat. This is your and. Then here's your third beat. Right. Hopefully that makes sense. With ties, right? And whatever else happens with rest, same idea. Just make sure you're counting all those. Let's do one more here. 4/4 time, same thing, 1 and then part of the 2. Here's the rest of the 2. Then you have your third beat and your fourth beat, right? And again, you can put and if you want. It's up to you, but it's third beat and fourth beat. All right, so hopefully that'll make sense. All of these lines will have dotted quarter notes somewhere. Just watch for those, count really carefully. I think it all makes sense. All right, and if you have questions, let me know. Okay, bye.